webinar. Welcome to the Kutaga webinar on preparing for the 2024 seedbed season. And today we've got a team from Plant Health Services presenting. We've got Chiedza, Mike, and Tafazo Mahere that are going to talk to you about the 2024 seedbed preparations, diseases, and mitigation practices. And we also have that.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar titled Preparing for the 2024 Seedbed Season. It's Chiedza Nyamakura. Presenting with me are two of my colleagues. We have Mr. Mike Marunda, a plant pathologist, and Ms. Tafazo Mahere, a plant nematologist. This is our presentation outline. I'll take you through the introduction and discuss some seedbed issues with regards to insect pests, as well as their management. Mike Marunda will take you through the disease-related issues in the seedbed and how to resolve them. And then Tafazo Mahere will take you through nematode-related issues, their management, and some do's and don'ts of the tobacco seedbed. This is an overview and introduction to our topic today. So Zimbabwe aims to produce 300 million kgs of tobacco by 2025 under the tobacco value chain transformation strategy. To achieve this, it's important to reduce yield losses attributed to pests and diseases, abiotic factors, and input costs. This advisory note is aimed at advising growers on the do's and don'ts of pest and disease management in preparation of the tobacco seedbed season. These are some of the most common insect pests. We have the aphid, which is the most economically important insect pest with the potential to transmit viruses such as...
Sorry to interrupt.
With the potential of transmitting viruses such as PVY and bushy top. We also have white flies, which are incidental pests and can be a nuisance sometimes in the seed beds if left uncontrolled. And then we also have fungus gnats, which are occasional pests and often expected to emerge from 5 weeks after sowing. We also have cutworms, and these are conventional seedbed pests, and not forgetting management approaches recommended for insect pest management, which starts with the prevention, which is the first line of defense of any infestation. So this is attributed to good sanitation.
Okay, your slides were not moving. I think now they are moving. Thanks.
So the first line of defense of any infestation is prevention, where we should practice good sanitation around the seed beds, adhering to legislated dates, for example, not sowing our seed beds before the 1st of June, and also good agricultural practices. Then secondly, we have monitoring insect populations in the seedbed through daily routine scouts and use of Kutaga nut busters, which are monitoring tools that aid in trapping the adult populations, henceforth preventing move on to the chemical control, which should be the last resort, which should be used only when necessary. So chemical controls can be used once insect populations are on the rise. Growers are advised to refer to the list of approved agrochemicals. And for seedbed insect pests, pesticides like imidacloprid plus beta-cyfluthrin, which is your thunder, can control insects like the aphids, whiteflies, cutworms, and the leaf miner. We also have cyromazine, which can control fungus gnats, and flubendiamide for the leaf eaters. I'll leave this time to Mike Marunda to talk about the disease-related issues.
Right, for the disease side of things, what I must point out first is that the conventional system has more diseases as compared to the ones that affect in the flow trace system. We have about 3 that are problematic in the float tray system, whilst we have at least 5 conventional system. So in the float tray system, we have Pythium, Rhizoctonia, and Fusarium causing havoc. These are economically important pathogens that affect tobacco seedling production in the float tray system. And these are the ones that determine whether farmers adopt or reject the float tray system. These, ladies and gentlemen, can be managed through an integrated pest management approach, whereby we use chemicals such as your azoxystrobin difenoconazole, azoxystrobin tebuconazole, to mention just a few, the use of biological control agents such as your trichoderma and Beauveria bassiana, also the cultural control techniques. All these, ladies and gentlemen, assist us to reduce, to manage pests and diseases in our seedbeds. Every farmer needs to understand the legislation, which says we need to destroy all stocks by the 15th of May. No sowing should be done before the 1st of June. No planting should be done before the 1st of September, and all seedbeds should be destroyed by the 31st of December. This slide shows you an ideal tobacco seedbed, both for the float tray system and the conventional system. What do we need to have? We need to have hand washing facilities. We need to have a footbath. We need to have a gate. It should be properly fenced, and it should also be labeled. There should be signage that talks about no smoking, maybe restricted entry. These, ladies and gentlemen, will enable us to minimize the spread of pests and diseases in our seedbeds. We move on to the sterilization of float trays. As you are all aware that float trays are a safer way of producing tobacco seedlings as compared to the conventional system, which requires the use of your EDBs, your 1.3Ds, which are detrimental to the users and the environment. And these float trays can be reused if we thoroughly clean them and sterilize them. And this cleaning and sterilization process is important because float trays may harbor a lot of pests and diseases. Most pathogens actually congregate at the bottom of the cells. That's where the problem starts happening. Your mycelia, your spores are concentrated at the bottom of the cells. And there are several methods that can be used to sterilize trays, including the steaming method, hot water dipping, radio frequency, to mention just a few. These are some of the options that are available for sterilization of the trays. In Zimbabwe, the most common methods are the steaming and the hot water dipping techniques. These are the ones that are used on farm. And according to a study that was done in the US by the Department of Agriculture in 2005, steaming is more effective than the hot water dipping technique. How does the hot water dipping technique, how is it done? You actually dip your trays for 2 minutes at 60 to 70 degrees. And at this temperature, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to kill most of your pathogens. But however, this technique is labor intensive. And also the technique may require several days if the hectarage is very large. So what are we saying? We are saying that we need to clean our trays thoroughly so that we remove all the visible debris, the dirt and organic matter. We also need to disinfect our trays with sodium hypochlorite. We need to soak the trays for about 10 to 15 minutes. We then need to rinse these trays thoroughly with clean water. Then we need to allow these trays to dry in a well-ventilated area. This is important, ladies and gentlemen, because when this happens, we minimize the spread of plant pathogens. In storage, we also need to store them in a clean and dry area. And we also need to routinely check for dirt and contaminants on the trays. And also from literature, sodium hypochlorite is effective for between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the area that the trays will be kept. This gives me the opportunity to call Mr. Mahere to come and talk about the nematodes.
Right, moving on to the nematode management options that are available for growers in the tobacco seedbeds. It must be appreciated that nematodes by nature are usually a problem in the conventional seedbed because the float tray system uses non-soil media. However, it must be highlighted that there must be assessments made, because you can introduce nematodes into the float bed system when contaminated water is used. Additionally, you find that infected seedlings start to develop damage symptoms like root galls, which are usually swellings on the roots that cause root dysfunction. And this root dysfunction is usually accompanied by stunting, yellowing, and wilting of the seedling. So it's very important for growers to take the necessary measures to ensure that nematodes are kept in check. Here are some of the chemical options for nematode control in the seedbed. These comprise of pre-sowing options. For example, you have methyl sodium, a fumigant that can be applied a month before sowing. You also have the likes of 1,3-dichloropropane and chloropicrin that can also be used a few weeks, 3 weeks before sowing. These are usually the options that are favored by the commercial growers, but even small-scale growers have a number of options that they can use at sowing. We've got some green label options, for example, cyclobutyric, which can be used at sowing as a drench as well. In conclusion, I'd like to remind growers the importance of checking the nematode status of their soil and water to ensure that they're able to better control these soil-borne pests in their conventional beds. It's also important when applying the nematicides, especially the fumigant ones, to use adequate protective clothing during the application. This should also involve following directions as given on the product label, because you tend to find that phytotoxicity incidences tend to occur when the directions are not followed. We have seen this in previous seasons. So it's very important for growers when they buy their products to ensure that they are advised adequately on the application procedure and to ensure that they apply the right rate. Finally, it's important for growers to adhere to the stipulated weight seedlings can be burnt. Germination may not even occur because of adhere to the stipulated waiting period. With that, I thank you and I hand over the time to the moderator for continuation.
So if you have any questions, please just keep them noted down as we move on to the next presenter, and then we'll have a questions and answers period after Dadirai is done. Dadi?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dadirai Chinamo, is introduced. I'll be talking about the float seedbed management. I'll give credit to my colleagues who have spoken before me, who were talking about the pests and the diseases that we find in this system. As for me, I'm going to just take you through how to establish your seedlings as we are looking forward to the 1st of June, where we'll start our seedbeds. and especially for those for irrigated, and then maybe getting into July, we start sowing for those that will be dry land. It will be more of a demonstration, but then first we need to know what is it that we need when we are doing the flow tray systems. What is the bill of quantities like? So there I have a bill of quantities for 1 hectare. So first and foremost, we need the trays. These may be the 242 cell trays or the 200 cell trays, depending on farmer preference. From research, we have seen that both these type of trays produce the seedlings of the same quality. So if there are 242 cell trays, we need about 72. And then if there are 200 cell trays, we need 87 trays. Our seed of getting seed. But you need to know that Kutsaga certified seed is the only seed that is allowed to be sown for seedling production in tobacco. And for this, you need about 18,000 to 20,000 pellets for 1 hectare. And then you need your black plastic, of course, about 17 meters, your plastic about 22 meters, and you need a media that we use. Mix out as you know, any soil, it's a soilless media, but the media that we use is the Gromix Ultra. This has been carefully formulated for you growers so that we have done all the quality assurance, we have done all the chemical tests that are required to ensure that it is optimum for growth before we release it to the market. So you need about 6 bags of this Gromix Ultra, and then you need your ammonium nitrate, which is about 500 grams, which you can use at about 1.4 kgs per hectare. And then for number of bricks, you need about 400 bricks. This can be farm bricks for you to construct a bed with 1 hectare. And to feed your seedlings, of course, we need the fertilizer again. Our basal fertilizer is the float fed. I'll talk about this. Or you can use hydrofed. So if you're using float fed, it's about 6 liters per each hectare, or 1.31 kgs for the hydrofed. And other things that you also need is the dibble board, 1 dibble board per hectare, a cedar, and floating row cover, which is very important for both June sown seedlings where it's very cold, and also in the hot areas. This float row cover will help you in terms of controlling your salts. So that is just the bill of quantities that you need for 1 hectare. I did not include the chemicals that are required because I think my colleagues have already alluded to those ones. So what do we need to do? As we are coming in, first, we will need to make our beds. So this is going to be a practical. You are going to be seeing a lot of videos, so just follow through as we are checking out the videos. As you see that guy there, he's leveling the bed. These are permanent beds that have been made already, but you can also use temporary beds where you bring in Okay, sorry for that glitch. I understand some people are saying the slides are not moving and they are not seeing the screens. So can we just hold on as we are sorting this out? Can you see my slides moving now? If anyone could just answer so that we know. Anyone from the audience?
The slides are now on?
Yes.
Yes, they are moving.
Okay, I'll also ask again, were you seeing my slide where I was talking about the bill of quantities?
No.
No.
We
No.
didn't see it.
Okay, just hold on. Can you see it now?
No.
Not yet.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do as I move on with the presentation, I think there is just some network challenges. So I'll just pause a bit and then ask if you are seeing the slides before I move on. Is that okay?
Thank you.
All right, so I'll just go through this very fast because I've gone through it before. This is the bill of quantities that I was talking about for 1 hectare, where I was saying you need your trays, you need your seed, your black plastic, your clear plastic, the Gromix Ultra, which is your media, your ammonium nitrate or calcium nitrate, bricks, the float fat or hydrofat, dibble board, cedar, and the floating row cover. So this bill of quantities does not include the chemical side, the chemicals that are required when you are producing your seedlings using the float seedling production system. Is my next slide visible? If anyone could answer from the audience before I proceed.
Yes, it's visible.
Thank you so much. So the first thing that you need to do when you come in, when you're doing your floats, is you need to make your beds. This can be permanent beds as shown in the picture, or you can use temporary beds where you actually use bricks, loose bricks. This can be farm bricks or any bricks that you have on your farm or on your site. And as you see the guys doing there, they are measuring out the size of the bed, and this is done using your float trays. We want the bed to be almost exact size in terms of your number of float trays. We do not want any gaps in between. So you level your ground and lay bricks, a minimum of 2 courses. This is very important because we don't want the bed to be too high. This will impact on your fertilizer dilutions, because our fertilizer dilutions are proportionate to the volume of the water in the bed. So it has to be a minimum of 2 courses high. As I said, you remove any stones or debris. We do not want to damage our black plastic because that is the plastic that is going to be holding our water. People are saying, some are saying they cannot hear me.
Can they hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you now.
I can hear you, but no slide.
There's no slides as well over here.
Okay, can you see anything now?
Yes,
Yes.
make the beds.
Yes. So I was playing nice videos there for you. It was just a guy clearing, putting in the black plastic and then putting in the water. So I was saying that the width of the bed should accept about 3 trays or 4 trays side by side for ease of management. So after pouring in your water, as you have seen there, you need to put your copper oxychloride for management of fungal diseases. I'll move on to the next slide. I'll wait until someone confirms that they can see the slide written Mix Grow Mix Ultra to required consistency. Anyone can just share. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much. So we have made our beds, we have put in our plastic, we have put in our water. Then we go on now to mix our grow mix. It has to be to required consistency, because if it is too dry, when we fill out our trays, there will be what we call fallouts. It will fall into the water, and you are reducing your number of seedlings per hectare. And also you can have dry cells, which ultimately lead to poor germination. If it is too wet, again, there's another problem of overcompaction, and this will result in spiral roots and development of algae on trays because it will be too wet. So before you even start applying water to your grow mix, you need to check the moisture content, because it can vary throughout the season depending on the season that we are in. If we are in a very wet season and it's raining, sometimes it will actually have enough moisture, you won't need to add anything. And sometimes it can be dry and you need to add some water. So you need to mix it thoroughly to a required consistency. And on my next slide, so on my next slide, I'm just showing this guy. Can you see this slide? Can anyone see this slide?
Yes. Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Yes.
Okay, it's unfortunate the video is not on mute, but you can see that guy. That's how we check the consistency of the grow mix. You just take a handful in your fist, and then you squeeze it in your hands, and it should just form 1 or 2 cracks. If it continues to be a firm ball, it means there is too much moisture. But if it falls out of all your fingers, it means it's too dry. So it should just give you 2 cracks. And then after that, you do what we call tray filling, as we saw from that guy who was filling the trays. In tray filling, we need to fill our trays once. After you've filled them, you lift the trays to about 10 to 15 centimeters, a height of about 10 to 15 centimeters. I'm playing it again so that you see what I'm talking about. As you lift it, you drop it on a cleared flat surface. It has to be cleared, as he's doing right there. He raises it up, drops it, and he has done it twice. You do it twice only if you have new trays, and you lift it once if you are using old trays, the trays that you have used from previous seasons. So that is how you fill your trays. You make sure that there is nothing that is left on the top, and then Now we move on. I'll wait again. Can you see the slides? Can anyone see the slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So there we have been seeing this guy who's actually dibbling. We are using a dipple board so that we make depressions in the gromming. As you can see, those depressions there. So those two guys, we saw them, they were dibbling the trays so that we form a microenvironment for the seed. This is very important because we want to maintain the distance between one seedling to the next. We want to maintain the distance so that we also have uniform seedlings across. So we need to have that dibble board. And also we are forming a microenvironment where the seed will have enough heat for it to germinate. So after we have dibbled, we have sown our seed, we put the trays carefully, as you see there, we are putting them carefully into the pond water that we have made, the bed that we made previously. These trays should not be free-flowing in the water because you lose your grommix in the water. So they've put them in carefully, and now we are putting in the so then now we are putting in the wires. As we can see from the video in the middle there. So those wires are the ones that are going to hold. So you see them putting the wires there. I'll just stop speaking a bit so that you can see exactly what is going on. So there are two types. The shorter ones, those ones that they are putting right now are to hold the float floor cover. And then you see them coming in with the longer ones, which will hold our clear plastic. So the float floor cover, I've said it before, is very important because we want to control our temperatures, either when it's very cold or when it's very hot. So both extremes use the float floor cover just to control our temperatures. Because if our temperatures go beyond that which is acceptable for seedling germination, your seed might not even germinate because it is too cold or it is too hot. So that is the float row cover there. So you carefully tuck it in as you see them doing, and they are putting some bricks so that when the wind comes, it doesn't carry away the float row cover. Now, those are the long wires where we're going to put our clear plastic, the one that you can see there to my right. So the long wires now will hold the plastic. This plastic is also very important in terms of temperature control. But when it's too hot, we should open this plastic because your seed will get into what we call dormancy. It will not germinate. So we really need to monitor the temperature within the seed bed. If we have any gaps in between the trays, as you can see from that picture there, we develop what is called algae, and this is not good for our seedbed. The algae is actually living material which will feed on your nitrogen, and you see your seedlings will be stunted in growth. They'll become yellow, as you can see there, because all the nitrogen is being consumed by this algae. So when we are making our beds, we make sure that there are no gaps in between the trays. If you find that you have made a bed and the gaps are too much, and you can actually use old trays, you cut them, you fill in the gaps so that there is no light that is going directly onto the pond water. Now I'll move on to fertilization. Can you see my slide? If anyone can confirm. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I'll continue to ask so that we all move in the same sequence. So for fertilizer application, we have two types of fertilizers that we can use, which were developed by Kutsaga. We can use what we call our float fet, which is a liquid fertilizer, and a hydrofet, which I'll show later. And this is a solid fertilizer. So for float fet, this is our basal fertilizer, like the compound Ds, compound Cs that we use in the field. The basal fertilizer in this case is float fet, which is in liquid form. So application times, we started 7 days after sowing. So this is 7 days after sowing. We are not looking at days after germination, because sometimes germination can be varied depending on where you are. So as a rule of thumb, it's just at 7 days after sowing, you come in with 1 liter per hectare of the float fet. At 21 days after sowing, that's when you come in with the second application, which is 2 liters per hectare. And the last application will be at 35 days after sowing, which is 3 liters per hectare. Then you'd have finished your basal applications. Lastly, you come in with your ammonium nitrate. This is at day 42, which is 500 grams per hectare. Or you can use calcium nitrate at a rate of 1.4 kgs per hectare at the same time, that is at 42 days after sowing. And we are done with our fertilizer applications. It's very important that we stop at day 42, because hardening in the float system is not by water deprivation that we are used to in the conventional system. Hardening is actually depletion of nutrients in the seedlings. That is what causes hardening. Whether we're in the float, whether in the conventional system, it's the depletion of the nutrients that causes hardening of the seedling. So we have seen some farmers continuing to put in more fertilizer, and the seedlings will become thin, they'll become too tall, and they will not be hardened by the time you want to get into the field. So it's very important that we stop at 42 days after sowing with our fertilizer applications. So this is the hydrofet that I was alluding to. It's also applied at the same days, that is at 7, 14, and 35 days after sowing. At 35 days after sowing, at those rates. So what we have done for you, so that it is easy for you to apply in the seedbed, it actually comes in different sachets. One which is written, the first sachet, which is about 220 grams per bed. That is the one that you use at 7 days after sowing. Then there'll be a second sachet with 440 grams of the hydrofet, which we use at day 14. And the last sachet, 650 grams of the hydrofet, which we use at the at 35 days after sowing. This will complete then your basal fertilizer application. So I'm fet or the Kutsaga hydrofet for basal applications, but the ammonium nitrate and the calcium nitrate remains the same across both basal fertilizers. So we have done our sowing and our seedlings have emerged. We have put in our fertilizers. It's very important that we do what we call clipping. That is You come in with your scissors, as you see that guy doing, and you clip your seedlings. Clipping is very important, especially in float raised seedlings, because this promotes a uniformity of the seedlings and also promotes hardening. It results in a compact and steady stem structure. We have heard farmers saying that the float system produces seedlings that are too thin, they are not comparable to the conventional system. But this is where most people get it wrong, that they start clipping the seedlings too late. And because of the competition amongst the seedlings, they continue to grow tall and the stem will not be steady. So it's very important that we start clipping when the seedlings are about 5 centimeters in terms of height. You come in with your weekly clipping. It should be light, and you should not remove the apical bud, but just the leaves, so that there is uniformity, and those seedlings that are lagging behind in terms of height can also catch up with the others to produce a uniform bed. And it also improves transplanting success, your clipping. So before you even go with your seedlings to transplant in the field, you need to have clipped your seedlings. You want to reduce the surface area for evapotranspiration so that there is improvement in terms of your transplanting success. I'll move on to the next slide. The advantages. It will not be good for me to just leave you with how to do the seedbed without giving you the advantages of the float system. It has many advantages, of which here I've just included a few, but in the long run, the float system has more advantages over the conventional system, although we see that it has high input cost. That is just the initial input cost. But however, in the long run, it's actually cheaper because, as you heard before from my colleagues, even in terms of the amount of diseases, the amount of pests that we find in this system, they're actually fewer than in the conventional system. So the first and foremost advantage is that there's reduced seedbed area from 100 square meters to about 20 square meters. So you don't need a large space. So this actually reduces your time in terms of putting in the seedbed perimeter, because you're actually using a smaller area than if you're going to be using your conventional seedbeds. So there's reduced seedbed space. There is efficient watering or irrigation system. We have heard before that if you put in your conventional seedbeds and you have done your sowing, it's 3 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, late, early evening, with you coming into water. And it does not give you room to do anything else. Hanzi unenge wakutongoswera wapamba uchingomirira kuti ma-seedlings atange kugerminata, uchingodiridza. So it's more efficient when you are using the float system, because you saw from that video where we are pouring water into the pond. That water, the initial water, is enough for you to let your seedlings germinate without you even coming in to top it up. So what you just need to do is just to top it up to 10 centimeters only. So you don't have to be watering frequently as we do in the conventional seedbed. Also, there's uniformity of seedlings in the float system. Unlike in the conventional system, we have seen also farmers who, I think most of you know that, they actually transplant some of the seedlings and some are not transplantable when you are talking about the conventional system, because they would have lagged behind. There is no uniformity, as much uniformity that we find in the float system system production. So there's more uniformity, that's what I'm saying, under float system production. And it produces superior seedlings with a robust root system. And also there's enhanced seedling establishment, mainly attributed to this robust root system. Because when you are transplanting your seedlings, you plug out the whole seedling with its roots. Unlike in the conventional system, where some roots, there's some root pruning when you are lifting up your seedlings from the seedbed and you are establishing them in the field. There's some root pruning which happens in the conventional system. which does not happen in the float system because you are plugging out the whole seedling. And it's actually easier to plug out these seedlings in the float system than in the conventional system. Lastly, I'll talk about enhanced yield and quality of cured leaf. This we saw in the trials that we have done here at Kutsaga, where we have compared the yield and the quality that comes out from conventional seedlings compared to the float seedlings. And we saw that there is enhanced yield and the quality of the cured leaf. So these are the advantages of the float system. And from my presentation, from the presentation that has been done before, I hope we have been enhanced. I hope we have been enriched in terms of our knowledge of the float system. But however, we are always available. During the season that we are getting into, we hold calendar-based trainings. And in this season, we'll be holding these trainings to train you on how to establish this system and how to get the best returns out of it. So please feel free to contact us. Feel free to come in when we have our trainings. We'll be available for you. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Daddy. Thank you so much for that presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please, the team is still here. Anyone with any questions?
Yes, I do have a question.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about PTM management. We're facing a lot of PTM almost every year in the tray systems. Anything to add on or to do to prevent PTM from ruining the seed?
Okay, Mike?
Right. Are you using any chemicals to manage PTM, Mr. Zinyama?
Yes, we have what you call Aquamil. Aquamil from Aqua Chemicals. Yeah. That's the only chemical we've been using.
Okay, I would recommend you to also add to your list, add azoxystrobin diphenylconazole together with your Aquamil. Are you using new trays or their old trays?
The old trays with 3 sections. The first section with new trays, then the oldest trays are 4 seasons old.
Okay, so maybe what we may need to do, let's start by cleaning and sterilizing the old trays, then come in with our Aquamil together with the strawberry loading combinations. Maybe if you can get your contacts so that at least we can discuss outside this meeting.
Okay, I'll send my contacts on the chat. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Do we have anyone with another question? Your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Grace.
Hello?
I just want. Hello, can you hear me, Grace?
Hello?
Yes, can we have one speaker for now? And then the next person can ask when Musekiwa is done.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Musekiwa.
Okay, I have a question for Daddy. Thank you, Daddy, for your presentation. I just wanted to know where can we get the float row cover if we want to use one. And when we are clipping the seedbed, we are clipping at what stage and to which height?
Okay, thank you, Musekiwa. Thank you for that question. For the float row cover, they are found in many agro dealers which deal with this. So I shall not mention by name, but the many agro dealers have the float row cover. Your second question is on clipping. I said we start our clipping when they're about 5 centimeters in height. So we are not really saying to which height should you keep them. We are saying you are clipping on the leaves. The stem continues to grow, but you are clipping the leaves. That's what you are clipping. But by so doing, you actually manage the growth of the height of the seedling. So it's the leaves that we'll be removing. We are not saying clip to this height, otherwise you'd damage the seedling. I hope you are answered.
Answered. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kiwa. I think there was another person that had a question. Dr. Mataruse. Hello, Doc, can you hear us? Oh, okay, I think we've lost him. Well, but there were some questions that were being posted on the chat. Team, if you can please answer to these questions. The first question is, are we able to do float trays in a greenhouse?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we are actually able to do float trays in the greenhouse. But the difference now will be in the management. As you saw, we are putting in a plastic, we're putting in the float row cover. We are actually trying to mimic what happens in a greenhouse. So seedlings can be raised in a greenhouse, but you will not be putting in the float row cover and the plastic because you're already under greenhouse conditions. We are actually using the system, the float system in greenhouses for the production of horticultural seedlings here at our facility. So it's very successful, and we have seen success stories from clients who have come in and gotten seedlings under the greenhouse and planted them out in the field. So yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Oh, you still wanted to talk more.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to, we were saying, and what are the possible implications? It's actually a more controlled environment if your greenhouse is a proper greenhouse where you can control your temperatures, where you can, you're actually controlling the entrance of pests and other things. So it's actually a better space for you to be producing your seedlings under a greenhouse. But that's what we mimic actually when we are using our plastic. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Daddy. And then I think, Mike, this one is for you. Please tell us more about using trichoderma in float tray seedlings.
Right. Okay, trichoderma is a beneficial biological control. Okay. This one, we use it to manage your diseases such as your Soshin, Fusarium wilt, and Pythium. We apply it at 4, 6, and 8 weeks after sowing at the rate of 18 grams in 72 liters of water, and we drench 72 trays for a hectare of tobacco.
Okay. And then there's another question here. In the event that there is algae growth in the float bed, can one still fill in with water, or what are the mitigation measures to algae?
Yes, when algae is a problem, you can actually fill in the water. What you just need to come with some products such as your QAC, quaternary ammonium compounds. We've got 2 formulations, one which is at 12% and the other one is at 20%. Those are very effective for the management of algae in the float trays. So you apply QAC on top of the trays and also the same product in the float water. The rates, we advise the rates depending on the concentration that you're using.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. So I'm going through my participants list. I do not see any other hands. Are there any other questions? Okay, it seems there are no more questions. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. If you missed out on anything during the webinar recordings are actually available on our YouTube channel, which is called Kutsaga Research. So you can catch up with anything that you have missed out on. And also, please join us for our next webinar, which will be on the 5th of June at 10 a.m. We'll be talking about soil analysis for sustainable crop production. This information will also be available on our social media handles, and also the link to the Zoom meeting will be available on our social media handles. And we'll also do our best to make sure that we disseminate the information so everyone is aware. Thank you so much for joining. Until the next webinar, please enjoy your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
I also think that every part, every how to check